What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin today. Hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get into it. We're going to do some short-term price predictions and just some overall thought logic here with Bitcoin. I don't know why I called it thought logic, but that's what came to my head. What I mean by that, and what I want to talk about whenever I say that, is the reason why we just kind of made a straight shot up to 100K, just below 100K, and now for the past like few days now we've just been moving sideways. I think the reason why is because you have probably an extreme amount of people in this area going long, going short. Equally, both are pretty possible, right? Rejecting 100K as a psychological level of resistance, it makes sense. Not only is it a psychological level of resistance being at 100K in price, but Bitcoin itself, its market cap hit a resistance line of $2 trillion. $2 trillion round number psychological level, $100,000 round number psychological level. You could find resistance here. Of course, that makes sense, right? So you're going to have people shorting, breaking through 100K, right? It's a very psychological level, very euphoric kind of number. We've been tearing through it. A lot of people are saying that we'll probably just move up to 106K, 120K, myself included. There's a lot of reasons to go long here. So when you're in these emotionally charged environments where people are convinced that we're going to move up in a very short amount of time or drop and reject in a very short amount of time, both with logical reasons behind them, when we have this kind of environment set up, it's perfect to just move sideways, because now the exchanges, the people in charge of the flow of money in this market, in this space, they're making profit. Whenever you go long, whenever you go short, those margin orders are being charged fees, right? Every 10 minutes, every hour, however it works with your exchange, right? They're charging you fees, and they make the most money in times like this, right? Because nobody's making money on the way down, nobody's making money on the way up, unless you have very short-term traders. But who's gonna do a very short-term trade right here, right? They're gonna expect a pretty significant drop or rejection from 100K, or if you break 100K, they're gonna expect a pretty huge rise. So I would bet anybody and everybody, at least most of the people, especially the less sophisticated traders in the space, even sophisticated traders, really, anybody taking out leverage trades right now, they're just getting their fees, they're getting eaten up by the fees, and I think that's why we're moving sideways. It wouldn't surprise me, you guys, if we continued to move sideways even for the next like couple days or so, or even like going into a good part of this week. A lot of people expect that we're just going to move up or move down, but that's kind of what we did here, right? We just kind of moved sideways for a solid week. So don't be surprised if we don't move too much lower than this low here around 95K, and don't be surprised if we do flirt with this 100K area a couple more times. We might even break it, and it could be an anticlimactic thing. We break just above it, but we still keep moving sideways, right? And then people are going to be like, is this thing broken? Is it rejected? Anything can happen. All I'm really trying to say is don't be surprised if it's a little bit boring for a couple days, or maybe even like the rest of this week. But with that being said, I think that it would be fair to assume that we could pull back all the way down to about $90,000. Okay, 90,000 would be the most that I would see this thing pulling back down to. Actually, just below 90K would be something like 89.7K would be the lowest that I could see us going. But I don't really think that we're going to go that low, guys. I think this was it. I think that might have been the low right there, personally. If not, again, of course, we could go a little bit lower, but something around here would do. And I want to look at the shorter term time frames just to kind of confirm that. Let's see. Looking at the 1 hour time frame here, looking at the RSI, looking at it for what it is. Look at this, right? Downtrend right here, lower lows, lower highs. We've broken out of it right now, and we're actually looking somewhat constructive on our 1 hour RSI. 4 hour RSI, it looks kind of not good with these lower highs and lower lows, I will say, but I would bet we have hidden bullish divergence going on. We do, right? We have dramatically lower lows here in the RSI with dramatically higher lows in the price. That is a form of hidden bullish divergence. If we take this high to this low here, we go all the way up to the 1886, pulling back down to the 1272. I mean, this looks pretty good for support, right? Generally, whenever you break above the 1618, you do expect to find support around the 1272, 1414 area. and that looks good. I like that we moved all the way up to the 1618. I would like it if we got above it. The fact that we're stalling right around here, and I'll zoom in so that we can kind of see that better. The fact that we're stalling around here does leave the door open to go lower. I would say this is why I think 90K should still be considered. That 90K area being all the way down to the golden ratio itself, right down there. But that's something that should still be considered as our maximum potential drop. Anybody calling for prices below 90K, calling for it's okay, but if you're expecting prices below 90K, I just want to be the bearer of bad news or real news. It's not going to happen, guys. Too many people right now want to get more Bitcoin. They wish they had a chance to buy lower. It's not going to give you that opportunity. It really isn't, right? I bet the amount of people that want to buy Bitcoin below 100K rather than the people that want to buy it above 100, you know what I mean? Like there's more people that want to buy it below 100K than there are people that want to sell it above 100K, if that makes sense, right? More, I guarantee you, we break above 100K. What I'm saying by that is more people, you guys, want to buy it down here than there will be sellers when we break above 100K. We break 100K, who's going to sell? Who's selling Bitcoin at that point? Everybody who wanted to sell already sold. Who's going to sell at that point, right? Everybody wants to buy. They all want to buy. So I don't think this drop is going to be too significant. The most significant I give it would be 90K. But even then, that remains to be seen, right? The more that we get away from this 98K area, the more that we kind of get above here, the more likely to me that it would be that this is our low, or at the very least that we would that our next low would come in somewhere around this area. So all that to say, Bitcoin's probably going to move sideways, right? The 1 hour is starting to look a little bit perky. That could be good for the coming hours of the day. Maybe the rest of this day is bullish. Who knows? The 4 hour doesn't look the best, but it doesn't look the worst. And there probably are more good things going on for it than there are bad things. And then if we look at the daily RSI, well, I mean, this thing's just unbeatable. It's overbought, and we have been overbought now for 19 days officially. To be completely fair, this is the minimum amount of time that we would expect to be in the overbought zone before seeing some kind of a pullback. So it could happen. We could pull all the way back down to 90K. Again, we have bearish divergence here, highs, lower highs there. If we were to go back to where that divergence formed, that would be right at about 91K. It is very common whenever these divergence forms to go back to where it started, back where the divergence formed, and even a little bit through there, which is why, again, I think just below 90K, but like 90K specifically, that area is a fair area to expect as a potential low, right? Even now. But it remains to be seen. It remains to be seen, right? Like this, just because we have bearish divergence like this doesn't mean we have to go all the way down there. But we could. We absolutely could. 19 days. We've been overbought for 19 days. If we go back real quick, and I'll end the video on this note, BTC USD. I did this on another video. If I'm boring you, I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. I think that this is worth talking about. We'll go all the way back in time, all the way. Keep on going. We're going all the way back in time, man. Taking you on a journey back to 2012. Okay, so here in 2012, we had a halving. We had our halving. It was November 28th, 2012, right here, right? That was the 27th, but one day over, okay? Before the halving, the discernible high that we had was right here, right? That was our discernible high. Okay. After this high, after the halving, when we broke above it here, our RSI was overbought, okay? And that's what I want to measure. How long was the RSI overbought for? After breaking above your pre-halving high. Well, you got overbought here. You were overbought. I'm not going to count that as breaking out. I think you bounced. You're still in it. You were overbought for 90 days. 90 days. We've been overbought for 19 days, right? We just measured that. Let's continue. Let's do this. Let's do this for the next halving. Okay. 2016 is the next halving. That was July 9th, 2016, right? So June, July, it would have been here. This is around the halving right here. Our pre-halving high would have been here. So we broke our pre-halving high all the way over here. And wouldn't you know it, we were overbought in this area as well. How long were we overbought for? This, I think, was our 19-day period. Okay, so from here, we got overbought on this day right here. We were overbought for literally on the 20th day. We got out of the overbought zone. So 19 days to a T, we were overbought this time. So 19 days. That's exactly as long as we've been overbought now. Okay. In the overbought zone, saw some pretty deep readings getting into the 90s, right? 3 peaks in the 90s. Very, very strong readings. And then we had a very harsh rejection all the way down to the green line. Moved up after that slowly. But yeah, you get the picture, right? 19 days. Next, halving. The next halving was May of 2020, May 10th, 2020. Sorry, May 11th, 2020, which would have been right here, right around here, right? May 11th, right there. The pre-halving high was this. That was our discernible high right there. Whenever we broke this high, it was all the way over here, and we were overbought on the daily as well. How long were we overbought for? We were overbought for, before getting out of it, right? We were in it on which day? Let's get it precisely. Not that day, but it was this day. That was our first day being overbought. I wouldn't call this getting out of it. We're finding support. We didn't really break out of it until here. So we were overbought for 36 days. So 90 days, 19 days, 36 days. These are the numbers that we've seen before, right? Right now, we've hit the minimum threshold of what we've seen historically. Will this be the time that Bitcoin gets out of its overbought period, right? Again, going with this idea of the halving being in April this year, April 20th. It was around like this time here. Our pre-halving high was right here. We just broke above it and we got overbought here. We've been overbought now on the RSI for 19 days. Does it continue? The odds, the statistics would say yes. But also they would say that this could be the time where we could expect Bitcoin to pull back a little bit, see a little bit more of a larger correction than we've seen really over the past 3 weeks now, right? Essentially, right? Something larger than what we've seen. And the biggest, let's be real, the biggest correction that we've seen since we were at 67K, 68K, the biggest correction we've seen was right here. From this high to this low, it was 7.2%. So whenever I say that this could mean that we see a larger correction than that, that's just 7.2%. Maybe our correction from a high to a low, maybe it's 11%. Maybe it's 10%. If it was 10%, that puts us at 89.7K, right? Just below 90K there. So maybe that's all this is saying. Maybe it's something larger than that. Who knows? But I really do think as we get to 10% of a drop or more, it starts to get less and less likely. And I also think that even at 19 days, it is probably less likely that we top off here. My assumption, my genuine assumption, is there's a lot of people who are expecting that this bearish divergence is going to mean more than it means, and it's going to mean that we're going to go really low or at least drop from here. A lot of people counting on that, right? People taking their shorts. But divergence can form over multiple iterations, right? You don't just get, you can have more than just one drive. This right here is a high and then a lower high. That's one drive of bearish divergence. If we continue to go down and then we come up, we form another lower high while forming yet another higher high in the price, that would be double bearish divergence. And then you can even do it once more and find triple bearish divergence, right? You can see that. So even though, yes, we have bearish divergence now, that doesn't mean that we have to make this move. This can further develop. And if it does continue to develop, this divergence does continue to develop and the move continues to develop, maybe we're at 120K before we get our significant pullback. And at that point, a significant pullback could be something like 20%, and we pull back to prices that are like relatively close to what we're at now, is all I'm saying. So yes, we might see this pullback. Yes, this divergence here could indicate that, but by the time it plays out, we might be at such significantly higher numbers that it's not really worth waiting to get into the markets, right? Waiting to get into the markets has never been a good idea. Like for the past 3 weeks, it hasn't been a good idea. And that's kind of what I wanted to take this part of the video to, what I wanted to end the video with, the same idea that I've ended every video with when I talk about Bitcoin for the past 3 weeks now, is that it's not too late to get in. It's really actually a good time to get in. Yes, I know that's hard to say. That might even be weird to hear, being that we're right at about 100K. And we even have the potential to drop down to 90K. But guys, the risk of missing out on what's to come to the upside far outweighs the risk to the downside. Okay, and let me explain, right? We could drop from here. Let me explain this, right? We could drop from here to maybe just below 90K. We dropped 8% from here. We could only pump from here maybe 7.5%. At a minimum, I would expect 7.5%. At this point, the amount of growth that you could see at a minimum, at a maximum, it could be a lot larger, right? So don't get me wrong. But at a minimum, the potential drop outweighs the potential pump. The risk does not, or the risk does outweigh the reward in this sense. But even with that, I would say that that's not entirely true. That the risk actually does not outweigh the reward. I think the reward still outweighs the risk here. The upside is to be more considered than the downside for this reason alone, okay? Even though you've got less growth at the minimum, right? The maximum potential is like 120K, so you could see a lot larger growth, 125K, something like that. But even though it's less growth, then it would be a loss. If the price were to move up here, it'd be at 106K. The reason why it's more risky is because it's to not buy, even at these prices, even with the potential of it going down to 90K. Hear me out, hear the logic, right? The reason why it's more risky to not buy here is because what's going to happen to you whenever the price is at 105K? What happens to you emotionally as an investor, as somebody who's looking to buy this thing, if you're saying, I'm going to wait for the pullback and then it doesn't come, or maybe it inevitably comes, but first you move up to 105K, 106K. You're probably going to FOMO. You've been wanting to buy, waiting to buy, and it just hasn't worked for you. This will be that last kick in the pants to finally buy and accept that you were wrong. And then finally it drops. This is the worst outcome. This is not the worst outcome. To buy here and then it drops, that's not the worst outcome. This, not buying here, it going up higher and then buying, or at least feeling that panic of emotions, that's the worst outcome. That's what can charge you to make bad decisions. You make an emotional decision up here and buy the top. You might make an emotional decision down here and buy the bottom and be like, ooh, I knew it was going to go below 90K. And those numbers never happen. If it's not clear what I'm trying to say by all of this, all I'm saying is get into the markets. If any of your money is sitting on the sidelines right now, you need to find a place to park it. I don't care if it's in Bitcoin. I don't care if it's in Mana. I don't care if it's in Bitcoin Cash, Jesus Coin, whatever coin. It doesn't have to be any of those coins. Those are just coins that I'm holding, right? It could be Solana. It can be BNB, XRP, Dogecoin, Cardano, literally any of them, and probably not the coins that have just pumped, right? Maybe some of the coins that over the past 7 days they're up, but over the past 24 hours they're down, something like that, right? Matic might come to mind there. We can look at the past 24 hours. Toncoin is going, Ethereum Classic, maybe even BSV or Shiba. It doesn't Litecoin, Optimism, Dog with Hat, all of these coins. Like it doesn't matter. Just get your money into something. Get your money into something. Even Bitcoin itself, right? Probably one of the most secure, if not the most secure crypto to invest in as far as risk management goes. But just get in now. The upside potential outweighs any of the risk that you could have to the downside, right? And then even in the immediate terms, that's not completely true. Over the long term, we will just decimate and obliterate whatever market cap we have right now. We're going to continue to grow. And with that, I leave you. I got nothing else I want to say. So if that sounds good to you, hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Bitcoin in no time at all will be above 100K. I don't care if we move back to 90K first. One way or another, guys, by the end of this month, it's the 25th now, so I'm confidently saying this. By the end of this month, I think we will be above 100K, and going into the end of the year, I think we'll be above 120K, if not even above 140K, let alone what's to come for the rest of the cycle. So is it too late to get in? No. But it's getting there. It's getting to the point where it is just irresponsible to not be in. It's more irresponsible to not be in crypto right now than it would be to buy at this price. I'm telling you. So with that, I leave you. Take care. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.